Welcome to the Rich Thinking Experience, where you can escape the 9 to 5 and live your dream life. Hear from millionaire entrepreneurs from around the world who will give you advice on how to start and grow your own internet business, as well as advise in the areas of sales and marketing, investing, and overall personal development. The Rich Thinking Experience with Rama Siva starts now.
Hello everyone, this is Rama Siva from London. Today it's my great pleasure to be interviewing Eric Edmeades, a true serial entrepreneur. Eric has spent the last 20 years starting, buying, selling and turning around businesses in 6 countries. Without further ado, let's welcome Eric onto the call. Hello Eric.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No worries. So let's start at the beginning. What happened? Where were you? What inspired you to do what you do today?
Well, that's that's such an open question because I do so many different things. But maybe the easiest way to answer it is that what inspires me is maybe a sense of hedonism and fun. I've arrived at a point in time in my life where I just want to enjoy my life as best possible. And so when I evaluate projects, when I evaluate opportunities, one of the very first things I'm looking at is am I going to enjoy it? Is it going to be fun? And I think that as I look back over my business life, I don't think this is, I think of this as a new way of thinking, but I don't think it is. I think I've really been using that as criteria for a long time.
And how did you get started? How did you actually get onto this road of being financially free and doing what you love, kite surfing and living in the Dominican Republic, Canada and UK?
Again, it's kind of a wide open topic because it's not like any one thing. I guess maybe there is one thing, and it's something that I do think a great deal about, but that it has to do with beliefs. I really am more and more a believer that what we believe is possible or not is really what determines the shape that our life takes. And so, when somebody believes that all the opportunities are gone, well, they just see a lot of evidence for all the opportunities being gone. And when somebody believes that there's opportunity around every corner, then guess what they see around every corner? And so I think that one of the things that I've been working on probably pretty much since 1987, is constantly working to improve my self-belief and my belief and my faith in the world and the universe and in life in general. And because I kind of have this idea that beliefs are a little bit like a living organism, and they need food. And the food of beliefs is evidence. So if you believe something, then that belief, it's like a little living organism, and it's going to look around for food. And so if somebody believes there's no opportunity, it's going to read an article about how somebody else, came up with a really good idea, and you go, oh, look, another idea that's gone. Right? Or somebody else has a really nice car, or somebody else is really successful, and all of that's going to be proof that all the opportunities are gone, and that belief is just going to get stronger and stronger. Whereas my view is, I look at it the other way around. I'm looking at going, okay, I want to feed the beliefs the right way. I want to feed the positive beliefs. So I believe there's opportunities around every corner, and you know what? I see them all the time. Doesn't mean I have to pursue them, but I see them. I see them for what they are and make a decision as to whether I want to chase down that opportunity. And there's been opportunities where I've decided not to chase them, and they've turned into multi-million-dollar businesses. And I don't get all mad that I didn't follow it. I just go, hey, look, proof that there's opportunity around every corner.
Indeed, you're quite right. Let's move on, and we'll get back to beliefs and your habits at the end, if you don't mind, Eric.
Sure.
So let's talk about what is disintermediation and how it has changed the face of business. Could you explain a bit about that from your business perspective? Talking about Uber, Netflix, and Airbnb. And I was trying to find out from you, from your business experience, what other businesses could be disrupted in a big way in the near future. And is there any industry that's safe from this type of disruption?
Okay. Yeah, I think these days anybody starting a business should be trying to disrupt. If you're starting a business just to eke out a little spot in the corner of the room, then that's not really starting a business. That's just creating a job. When you seek to start a business, I really think the idea should be. It's the Elon Musk thing. You should be seeking to put a dent in something. Are you putting it? In his case, he wants to put a dent in the universe. Well, okay, then maybe that's a bigger dent than a lot of us are going to go out and create the world. But like for example, when I created WildFit, I created it with an absolute awareness and an absolute desire to create a massive dent in the healthcare system and a massive dent in the perception of food and health and diet and what have you. I didn't do it to just help a few people. I did it to really create an impact. Yeah. So I think that the first thing is actually having a desire to create that level of impact. One of the businesses that we started in California, while we may have started off doing Hollywood special effects, we moved into using those Hollywood special effects to create hyper-realistic medical simulation dummies for the U.S. Army. And our dummies were so realistic that it put a dent in the industry. If they were so realistic that in the old days, people used to train on a dummy that looked like a shop mannequin. And by the time we were finished, these things had skin that felt like skin. They had hair, they breathed, they bled the way people bleed. They were so real that there were medics that were like, I don't want to be a medic now that I've interacted with this dummy, right? That's, we put a dent in the industry by doing that. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities for doing it. We've already seen that technology is a real key to that. And I think that obviously that'll continue to be the case, but I think now it's going to be a matter of marrying consciousness with technology. For example, an area that I think a lot about right now in the world of health is that we have a health paradigm that's all built around pharmacological medicine and medical intervention and what have you, and it's not built around prevention. It's not built around self-care at all. And so I think that what we're seeing is an opportunity to create a big dent in the universe by saying, hey, you know what? What if we change the entire paradigm and marry that up with technology so that we can leverage it very, very well? And in our case, what that means is we've had over 1,000% growth this year, like with no marketing money spent, just simply because the effect we're having on clients is so dramatic, and then we're using technology to leverage it so well that it works. So I think there's going to be lots of continued opportunity for that, but I think that what it's going to require is maybe the easy ones are gone. Maybe the day where you're standing outside the conference in the rain, you're going, man, why can't I get a taxi? I wish there was an app for that, Uber. Or, oh, every hotel is booked. I wish I could just stay with a friend, Airbnb. Maybe the days of those really like a normal life problem and technology coming together and disrupting the world, maybe that's over. I don't know. We'll see. But I now think the next thing is to marry those technological leverage points with complete shifts of paradigm. And I think that's going to be, I think we're going to see a lot of more disruptive companies coming like that.
Robots are now replacing people. In a cafe in China, robots now take orders and serve food. Could you see McDonald's and other global restaurants doing the same?
Well, I don't ever go into a McDonald's, so as far as I know, they already have robots. I don't know, but listen, I love Uber. I'm a big Uber fan. I'm not saying Uber's perfect, but I like Uber, and I like the service a lot. And so what I noticed, of course, because I'm traveling all the time, is I use Uber whenever possible. I even sometimes choose to avoid some cities because I know they don't have Uber. I'm not kidding you. I like having that service that much, right? Okay. So, but then what I also notice is a lot of cities have been going through this thing where the taxi drivers are rebelling against Uber, right? Yeah. So in London, the black cabs were rebelling against Uber. In Paris, they were rebelling against Uber. In Tampa, Florida, the entire Transportation Commission was rebelling against Uber. It was just, now, I then get in the car with Uber drivers and I ask them, how is it like for them when the black cabs turn on them or what have you? And they say, well, it's tough, but we're getting through it. But they have this victim attitude about it. And this is what I often say to them. And I've been saying this to them for about 3 years now. You're next. And they go, what do you mean you're next? And I go, well, it's going to be you protesting self-drive taxis in 2 years. And they're like, what? And I go, don't you imagine that Uber, and this is, I've been saying this for long, I mean, now it's in the press that Uber's doing this, but I've been saying this to them for years. Don't you imagine that pretty soon when somebody opens up the app and requests a car, that a car is just going to show up and there's not going to be a driver? And you should see some of the drivers like, holy crap, I thought this was going to be something I could do for the next 5 years. You're telling me it's going to be gone in 2 years? And guess what's happening? There are cities now where that's going to happen. So yeah, I see that there's going to be an entirely new world economy developing with increased automation. And at first, it's going to be really painful at the lower end of the economic scale. It'll be really painful.
Yes.
But I think perhaps it leads to a different kind of economy, like Finland is experimenting with basic levels of salary for population and that kind of stuff, or the Star Trek economy where money doesn't even exist anymore because automation is so prolific that you no longer need jobs. Maybe that's a little bit of utopian or optimistic view, but I think that is where we're headed. But man, the road getting there is going to be bumpy.
Indeed. There was a study by a couple of Oxford University professors, and they estimated about 50% of the US jobs are at risk of being automated in the next 20 years. Obviously, what we just discussed, this is going to be maybe in the next 5 years. How can people learn new skills?
It's a big issue. It is. It's a really big issue. And as I said, I believe that in the short term, it's going to be disruptive and painful. It's going to cause more of this, it's going to cause more of this right-wing backlash that we're experiencing, Brexit, Trump, that it's going to cause more of those types of things, which largely I regard as backward steps on the planet, whatever, that's my opinion. But I do believe that, assuming that the right-wing backlash doesn't end that, because a guy like what may happen is a guy like maybe I shouldn't name names, but you could have a charismatic political leader that comes out and ends up winning a huge platform on the basis of banning robots and banning automation. Well, okay, but at the end of the day, other countries are still going to do them, so you're going to have the problem of that they're still just going to get farmed out to where the robots are allowed. I believe that where we are is that automated workforces will be painful at first, and they will create increased standard of living for everybody in the future, provided that we can ride out provided we can fix some of the capitalistic imbalances that exist today. But at the end of the day, there are already people who sit at home and live off government money. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. But I think what's going to end up happening is as labor costs come down and automation becomes more readily, and one day we don't need people, driving garbage trucks, and we don't need people. Look what's already happening. When's the last time you used a travel agent to book a flight? It's happening all around us. And I think that the more and more and more that stuff happens, the more we're going to move toward an economy where at the lower end of the market, probably people won't even need jobs anymore. And again, as I said, kind of like what's going on in some of the Scandinavian countries now. And
would you see that governments are paying them to sit at home, basically?
To exist. I mean, we might call it welfare in we might call it welfare in Canada or America. We might call it the dole in Britain. But in some countries, it's now if you consider Norway. Now Norway, it's a little different now because the oil thing has kind of dried up a little bit.
Okay.
But if you consider that Norway is so wealthy that if they simply liquidated their country, everybody in their country would be a millionaire. Okay. So, and frankly, there are so many government handouts for so many variety of things. There's if you want a grant to go and run your business in Canada, there's tremendous opportunities for students. Socialism will work so much better when there isn't a need for people to be doing a lot of the jobs that get automated. Now, listen, I'm not advocating for this. I'm talking about what might be. And all I'm really getting at is that I think right now it's unstoppable. At the end of the day, this automation train has taken off, and it's happening. And at first, it's going to be very painful for a lot of people. But it may well be a path to a new economic model that really is a bridge between capitalism and socialism. And it may well come about to end poverty in the end.
And how can people learn these new skills, especially when the current education system is tailored to mass producing graduates.
Yeah, okay, and which new skills do you mean? I mean, here's the problem, is that sales automation is not, or sorry, not sales automation, workforce automation is not for the time being going to end lawyers. And it may put a dent in the medical world, but it's not going to finish nurses off, and it's not going to, not for a long time. It's not going to finish off doctors. It's not going to finish off, you know, sales and marketing people, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to finish off software coding. In fact, it's going to create incredible opportunities in technology and software development. But the trouble is that automation isn't threatening those jobs anyway.
No.
The automation right now is threatening the
low-end
jobs that don't have, you know, that aren't really highly skilled in many cases, and that are often manual labor and that sort of stuff. And so, you know, what are the new skills that you're going to teach those people? I don't really know the answer to that, because I think that, like I said, I think we move toward a version of some bridge between capitalism and socialism, where the government is just, you know, paying for people to be.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing these insights, Eric. Once a year, you spend 2 days reevaluating your life. Could you please share more about this? What areas of life and what key things do you look for?
You know, it's funny. I was just doing a class for a bunch of my clients, you know, and we were talking a lot about that. I'll give you the basic formula right now. The basic formula is that I do an evaluation of where my life is in the present, and I compare that with where I want it to be, and I also compare it to where it was a year ago. And these are very important comparisons, because what often people do is they lose touch with the progress they're making. And progress is fundamental to human happiness and fundamental to human motivation and inspiration. When somebody feels like they're making no progress, they give up. When they feel like they are making progress, they push forward. And the more progress they get, the more they push forward. So what happens for a lot of people is they come to the end of the year and they feel like, wow, I just really don't feel like I got anywhere. And that's because some of the improvements they've made have been so tiny and incremental, they couldn't see them, right? You know, like, it's like that age-old thing, like if you have kids, you don't really see your kids grow unless you measure them. But your friend can have kids and you see their kids grow like crazy because you don't see them so often. Well, since we see our own lives so regularly and so intensely, what that means is that we often don't see the improvement. And so I think that's one of the very big jobs, is for people to do a really honest moral inventory of the improvements they made, even if they didn't have a great year, is to look and go, but what did I improve? What did I do better? What is better about my life today? And if I can't find anything, what did I learn? Because that's a kind of improvement too. And the minute somebody can lock on to some of the improvements they've made, then their beliefs are going to start, oh look, I can improve. That's a good belief to have. And then that's going to drive better decision making. So that's the first step, is where am I right now? Where was I at the beginning of the year? And where do I want to be? Then when I look at where I want to be, the issue then is what I have to take a look and go, all right, if I have any habits or beliefs or value conflicts right now that might stop me from getting where I want them to be, what are they? So I might look at habits and I go, oh, somebody might say, oh, well, I spend too much time on Facebook, or I sleep in, or I miss meetings, or I eat junk food too much. You know, they may look and go, wow, those things might get in the way. It's interesting just to identify them. It doesn't mean changing them right now. It just means, hey, these are habits that are probably going to get in my way. Here's what's fascinating. When somebody has habits that get in the way, it changes their belief. In fact, it changes their belief so much that it changes the kind of goals they're willing to set. Because their body goes, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire by the end of the year. And then in the back of their mind, they're going, yeah, but you sleep in, you miss meetings, you're never going to be a millionaire. They go, let me revise that goal, right? So even before they've started working toward the goal, their beliefs can impact the goals they're willing to set. So looking at the habits that we have that are in the way is really useful, because now we can take a look at finding out ways to interrupt those habits. You know, there are NLP techniques and that kind of stuff that people can use, strategies that they can use to end those habits. Next thing is to take a look at beliefs that might be in the way. And it's very easy to find the beliefs, because what happens is that you take a look and go, in a perfect world, if everything could be exactly the way I wanted it, this stuff would happen. And then wherever you notice yourself rejecting some of that stuff, that's because there's a belief. So for example, I might say, I want to be a billionaire within 10 years. Okay, well, I can tell you I don't really care much about being a billionaire in 10 years. It's not a big thing to me. But then I have to ask, okay, why not? Well, because I have a belief. And the belief is that being a billionaire in the next 10 years means I'd have to work a lot harder than I work right now, and I'd lose more time with my family. Oh, is that interesting? That leads to another belief, that I believe that somehow money and hard work are directly related. Interesting. The other thing is that if I had that much money, then I'd just be managing money all the time. You see, I'd start like looking at the beliefs and going, okay, those beliefs are in the way. I have to do something about that. By the way, is there not evidence all over the world of people who seem to attract a huge amount of money without sacrificing their life and their quality of life and their time with their family? Sure there is. So just because I have a belief doesn't mean it's right. So that's a big thing, is to take a look at the beliefs that are in conflict with the trajectory that I want to create. What are the beliefs that might be obstacles in the way? And then how can I work on chiseling away at those beliefs? The process is a little bit more complicated, and I'm laying it out for you here, but that's a big part of what goes into it.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Eric. And what are your daily habits?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not. I don't think of myself as being like super ritualistic. I go through phases. But when I'm here at home, for example, my daily habits are I like to get up in the morning. I like to go for a walk on the beach with my baby girl and sometimes with my wife, and sometimes I let her stay and sleep when she needs the extra sleep. But I go out for about an hour-long walk with my baby girl pretty much every morning. There's a smoothie bar just down the beach here. So we walk down there, get a smoothie, come back. Then I'll usually sit and do a little bit of, just planning of the day, which involves two things: figuring out what I need to get done that day, and also figuring out when the wind is coming. Because I live in Cabarete, which is like a kiteboarding. We live on a beach called Kite Beach. And so I'm an avid kiteboarder. So the first thing I have to do ritual-wise is I have to figure out what time the wind is coming, because then it tells me how much time I have to get all my things done before I have to go out and kite.
Awesome.
And that's basically, I mean, there's some other more detailed things, but that's basically a rough view of what my day is like here.
Awesome, great. And what empowering beliefs do you now hold that you didn't hold 10 years ago?
I think that one of the most powerful ones for me is the recognition that I have already achieved in my life today things that I once regarded as impossible. And so why would I give up on those dreams in the future?
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's a really common thing for people, is they forget that they have already achieved the impossible. And then when an impossible thing comes along, oh, look, it's impossible. Well, no.
Very true, very true. And where do you want to go from here? What are your future plans?
My biggest focus at the moment is around our WildFit business. It's been a major focus of mine for about 20 years. The whole idea of nutritional anthropology, evolutionary biology, behavioral change psychology. And so we're really on a mission right now to impact millions and millions of lives around the planet in terms of increasing their quality of life from a health perspective, and reducing the burden of the costs on the healthcare system that are really being brought about by A, the lack of self-care on an individual basis, and B, by a heavily manipulative food marketing industry that is really designed for profitability and not for health, and C, a medical industry that's pretty much the same.
In one of your talks, you mentioned that the media is conditioning the people for lack consciousness, basically, like movies, they portray the rich guys as evil. Could you expand a bit on that so my readers and listeners can understand?
Yeah, I think that first of all, I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting the media is doing this on purpose. They're not trying to condition people this way. I think it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy or a self-breeding loop, and it kind of works like this. If you and I were going to write a movie, and I told you that there's going to be a good guy and there's going to be a bad guy, okay? There's going to be a good guy and there's going to be a bad guy, and the bad guy's going to try and do bad things and the good guy's going to try and stop it. Now, one of them has to be a billionaire and the other one has to be a starving student. Which is which? Which is which?
Well, it should be the good person who is the billionaire.
Oh, really?
Should be.
Not if we want to sell the movie.
No.
Not if we want the majority of the population to be willing to buy the movie. Because you see, the problem is the majority of the population is not a billionaire. The majority of the population is not wealthy. And so they don't want to go to a movie that makes the wealthy the good guy and makes the person that they can relate to the bad guy. They don't want to relate to the bad guy. They want to relate to the good guy. So what happens is the media now has to produce content that fits the majority. And the majority of people live without massive financial abundance. And so you make them the good guy and you make the rich guy the bad guy because they're already feeling maybe a little jealous about the bad guy anyway, or the rich guy. And so why not make him bad? Now, I would say this. In the real world, there are bad rich people, but there are also bad poor people. And I just don't think there's any real difference on a statistical basis. In fact, if there is, I hate to say this because it's not a popular idea, but I would guess that there are probably more dishonest poor people than there are dishonest rich people. Now, I know that's politically incorrect and I'm going to get in all kinds of trouble, but here's the only thing I'm saying. To become really, really, really wealthy, I mean, yeah, there are dishonest ways to do it, but mostly you have to deliver on your promises. Even if you're a bad person, you have to tell people you're going to get stuff done and you have to get it done for them. And so it seems to me that if there was a slight leaning in one direction, I trust Richard Branson. I'm not saying he's never lied. I'm not saying he's ever done anything wrong, but I'm thinking mostly he's probably a good guy. That's my impression. But how this works, though, is that, you know, I think if you see my talk on this, I pointed out that, like, you know, there's some funny, like, there's only 3 superheroes that have money. Iron Man, Batman, and the Green Arrow. They're the only ones that have money. And they have 2 other things in common. One is that they're basically not good guys. They're womanizers, drug users, alcoholics, you know, vigilantes. They're not good guys. I mean, they're good guys at the end, but they're not. But they share one more thing in common. They have no superpowers. So, you know, what's going on there? Well, it would be unfair to let a rich person have superpowers too. So if you either have superpowers or you can have the money, but you can't have both. And so what's happening here is that they're writing this stuff not to manipulate the population. They're writing it to appeal to the population, and then what it's doing is it's creating a self-enforcing belief structure.
Very true. Thank you so much for your time, Eric. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and hope to connect with you again soon.
No worries, sounds good.